what we as spiritual individuals are called to do. With the events in Uvalde, Texas, we are seeing once again a scenario we have already seen too many times before. But what can we as spiritual individuals do to act? Should we remain silent? We as spiritual individuals have a harder task ahead of us than the rest because we have a greater capacity to see wrongdoing. Something in your heart is screaming, "Wrong! Oh, so wrong!" And you can usually see that there are so many elements involved in this picture, we can't simply point to one thing that needs to be fixed. There are a lot of things that need to be fixed here. Now that I live in Europe, I enjoy a peaceful life, surrounded by peace, happy families, lots of children around, and safety in parks and everywhere else. So much of what I see happening in the US is even more shocking to me and to everyone else here as well. There are no mass shootings here. There aren't quite a few of the social issues that the US has. Yet, I am still proud to be an American. I am because I know who we are and what we are capable of. It's just so hard to see these things going on in the US. I feel so many are becoming numb to it, and then so many are so horrified it just continues and continues. Yet in Congress, there is a simple, modest bill to increase background checks. That's all. That passed in the House a long time ago, but it cannot even get heard in the Senate. This means that there is not enough of a majority in the Senate to do anything. Do you know why? The gun lobby and those who participate and cooperate with them. At this point, some spiritual individuals would stop listening to this podcast and say, "I don't want to be political," because basically you're afraid to lower your vibration or get involved in politics. If that's what you're feeling, I invite you to expand your bandwidth. Because if you do not care about humanity, your, quote, spiritual journey has not really even begun yet. It's the reason you're here. Politics are personal. They affect you and your family personally. And to sit on the sidelines and do nothing and say nothing is complicity. Martin Luther King Jr. was very clear about this. Here is a quote from what he said in one of his speeches. "Those who passively accept evil are as much involved in it as those who help to perpetuate it. Those who accept evil without protesting against it are really cooperating with it." That's from Martin Luther King Jr. I cannot stay silent. Yes, we do feel anger and frustration. This isn't going to be thrown in the "that's not spiritual" category. If you're not getting angry and standing up and speaking up for justice, for children and families, for the general safety and security of humanity, then you want to look at what your version of spirituality is all about. Is it just for you? Or are you connected to a higher power that guides and directs you? You need to speak and to act and to be the voices for those who cannot, and to make a broader impact through all the resounding voices that join in. Let's not stay silent any longer. You either stand on the side of justice or you are complicit. Even Albert Einstein had his own thoughts about this as well. "If I were to remain silent," he said, "I'd be guilty of complicity." And of course we know it's not just the gun lobby we need to speak up about, or the guns, as if that weren't bad enough. Why aren't we having adequate mental health care? Although we've been talking about that for years. Why are there so many mental health issues in the first place? There are answers to this, and unless we, as spiritual individuals, speak about what we see as inadequate and what is the cause of these issues in the first place, then we are throwing away our voices. We are throwing away our wisdom. And many of you have arrived at your wisdom through some very difficult ordeals. Let's not let it go to waste by keeping it all inside. We won't even get into the discussion of universal childcare when we know early childhood care has tremendous impact. What is the importance of children and families in our system? If it were important, wouldn't it be supported in some way by our taxes? Or how is it possible that an 18-year-old can have a gun like this, be unsupervised, unhealthy mentally, and we have nothing in place whatsoever designed for prevention? I read recently that the state of Texas lowered the gun purchasing age to 18 just last year in 2021. Are we going backward? And this is the first thing this 18-year-old did on his 18th birthday. He went out and bought the AR-15 that was the instrument to kill those 9 and 10-year-olds and 2 teachers along with them. It's really hard for any European or anyone from any culture anywhere in the world to understand what is, quote, wrong with us as Americans. But it's not only the people. It's a combination of legal money buying lawmakers, and those lawmakers fabricating enough of a flimsy argument to convince their voters that they have their best interests in mind. In this case, the Second Amendment. This has nothing to do with the right to bear arms. At what point do you draw the line? Should private citizens own nuclear weapons? Tanks? Javelins? How old should they be before they can own these things? What training or psychological testing goes into place to monitor any purchases? Any at all? Ultimately, it is the American people who will decide. But I'm sick of hearing uninformed Americans and senators say, it's not the gun. Yes, it is the gun. And yes, it is the one operating the gun. And so many other things as well. We need an overhaul overall. The European governments work the way they do because you can't just out and out buy lawmakers according to how much money you have. The European citizens have gun laws. They have universal health care. They have universal child care. They have pensions and free universities because it's what the people want their tax dollars to go to. It's the way most industrialized nations work. All of them except the U.S. If you saw something like what's happening in the U.S. happening in another country, what would you think? Wouldn't you think it totally barbaric? Would you call that a democracy? I'm asking you to not hold things inside when the opportunity rises for you in your personal life, and I can guarantee that it will. You will have the opportunity to speak up and to share your wisdom, your innate knowing between what is right and what is wrong. Get familiar with how other nations do things so we can ask our friends, how is it that they have this sorted out and we can't figure it out? You will know what to say and when to say it. But please, what I am asking you to do is to not stay silent and be complicit. The time for politeness passed a long, long time ago on this issue. We can change this, and we have to believe we can, or things will continue to be the same as they have always been. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need guidance on this. Much love and many blessings. Suzanne.